Welcome, everybody, to the third Fitness, Food, and Fun. It's a chat with Andy Mack. And today we are here with my friend, Stephanie Kathleen, connecting with us all the way from Seattle, Washington, where the weather is definitely better there than the 17 degrees high will be tomorrow. So, Stephanie, I'm just going to give a quick intro to you, high level, and then I would like you to just fill in any dots on anything that I've missed here. So, I know you going all the way back. It's been at least, I think, 10 years now that you've been a yoga instructor, and this is what you do for your career. And you've been pursuing this very diligently. I know that you've pursued several levels of education and advancement in your career. I think you're probably in the 15-year range, maybe even more of experience. But if there's anything else like that you want to add on to that, and then we'll lead into fitness and tell us how that is part of your life today.
Absolutely. Hi, thank you so much for having me. So like Andy was saying, I've been studying yoga since 2007. That was my first class, and I knew I was like hooked into it, right? I was looking for something to nourish that fitness element as well as like a deeper soul connection. And I found it with yoga just at my local gym. And at the time I was living in Vegas. And from that point, I grew into wanting to teach and taking a 200-hour, which led to a 500-hour, which led to me studying with my teacher out here. His name's Adil Papivala with Purna Yoga. And then I ended up taking another 200-hour, another 500-hour, and then his advanced 2000-hour course. So a lot of training. I'm passionate about helping people and helping them establish healthy habits and approaching their life in a holistic way. So not only like the physical fitness part, but the mental part, the emotional part, the food part, and hopefully having some fun on the way too, because it can't all be like serious, right? We have some fun. um, but I think before getting into yoga, I was into dance at a really young age. My mom, she put me into like tap class, jazz class, ballet class when I think I was 4 or 5. And she knew that I needed something to just because I was a kid and I was the youngest of 3. And we had a lot going on at that time. And so I'm sure at some level, my mom just needed a break from her kids.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was an opportunity. Like I loved the opportunity to dance and the self-expression of it. And it was just super fun. And from there, through middle school and high school, I started getting into gymnastics and progressed to a level 9 gymnast, which back in the day, there was a different set of standards than what you would see like a level 9 gymnast today. But I was a competitive gymnast, and that kind of rolled into collegiate cheerleading. So I was a Purdue cheerleader. And then after college, that's when I really wanted to continue fitness per se, and ended up taking a yoga class, and it helped me kind of build this connection that I first felt when I took a dance class, this like self connection with myself. And it's growing, it's changing. And I noticed like throughout each stage of my life, it's fitness has had different elements to it. So when I was a kid taking dance class, I just mainly focused on the activity, right? But as I progressed into adulthood, fitness has shifted more into sustaining and helping me become mentally, emotionally healthy, helped me understand like the food aspect as far as, what I put in my body is fuel to help me do what I need to do every single day. And also the fitness aspect, like keeping myself strong. There are days I don't want to get out of bed and get on my mat and do a practice, but I know if I don't do it, I'm actually going to be hurting worse than if I just got up and did it. And so it's helped me to establish this different kind of relationship now as an adult versus as a kid. And as an adult, I'm having to see more and more as like not treating it like a chore, but something that is helpful. It can be fun as long as I don't take myself too seriously.
What it's already struck me about what you said is like this, it's been very stage like. And you started with dance, and then in the next stage you went to gymnastics, and the next stage you went to cheerleading, and in this next stage your focus is yoga, but it's a lot about how you're helping people grow, which is what you talked
Mhm.
about. So you want to expand upon that and why that's important to you?
Yeah, I helping somebody grow into themselves. And I know from my personal experience with yoga, and I'm sure this can be relatable in other sports as well, but having a coach per se, somebody who can see where your blind spots are and where your potential lies, and then helping you establish healthy habits around it, creating discipline, creating not necessarily a goal in yoga, but creating an intention of what you want to create for yourself, whether it's on the mat or off the mat. But the progression that I've seen with students as a teacher and as a fellow student to some of my colleagues, it's this continuous evolution, right? So there's never really an end point. And it's this consistent refinement and this opening up of, somebody, for instance, in my own experience, I was really, really shy. To get me to do a podcast before, you probably would never get me. I'd probably run the other way. But I was super shy, and just knowing that this process that really kind of opened up for me because I was willing to face the things that I needed to face, and yoga was that avenue, and it still is that avenue for me to do that. And it's, was incorporating the meditation, it was incorporating healthy eating habits, it was catching those thoughts that beat you up or that inner critic and saying no to it and learning how to transition that around. And because I was shy, I also dealt with anxiety, I've also dealt with depression. And so that has helped me turn the ship around, so to speak. And I know that it has made such a big difference in my life. And to be able to hold a space and to be able to share what has helped me, not saying that it is just giving them the opportunity to like to experience in themselves. That to me is such a beautiful thing to witness. And something I'm not quite sure if you knew, Andy, is that I was running teacher training programs out here through the school that I actually took yoga trainings from. So Purna Yoga College, I was their programs manager. And it was such a blessing to witness students come into the program, whether it was a 200 hour, whether it was a 500 hour, just seeing where they are and seeing the self-development that happened through through yoga, through the process. And it's like I said, all those components, those holistic components, and the physical aspect of it helps you kind of like not only refine the body, but helps you, what we call in yoga, like get rid of samskaras. Like you're helping release these really deep patterns within yourself. So if you take it to like an emotional level or like a mental level, if you're dealing with anxiety or certain thought patterns, you're challenging yourself through the physical practice to think differently, to create a different relationship to your thoughts, to your body, things like that. And so from that process, and it does not happen overnight. Like I said, my journey started in 2007, and it's taken me a while to get here, but through that, it has kind of built I don't want to say momentum, but it has repatterned things for me in a different way. And it's something that I am passionate about helping people do for themselves. And it's like I want to help people who want to help themselves. And it's so beautiful when someone is like, thank you so much. That is exactly what I needed today. And it could be a quote that I said, it could be a posture that we did. It's helping them reframe something in relationship to their practice or the physical aspect. And it's that means the world to me.
Yeah, what's interesting is I coached for several years, and I feel like I might even have mentioned this on the previous podcast. But my biggest reward, and it's my favorite job of all time, because I like seeing the kids grow. Like, I did it for high school, and to see the kids come in as young 14-year-old kids and leave basically as adults, what we consider in our society at 18. And my greatest
Mhm.
reward was getting a thank you. And then
Mhm.
it wasn't just about how successful you were from a competitive standpoint, is what you took away in life. I always tried to make sure that I wasn't a friend, so to speak, to the kids, even though I was younger and we had that type of relationship. I always wanted to be a mentor to help them get better and grow. And that was like the difference in my approach, or maybe similar to an older, like more experienced coach, but that's exactly, I have a great deal of understanding with you. And you seem like a very compassionate and empathetic person, obviously, and that's
Mhm.
what brings you joy in life. If there's anything else you want to expand upon that we might have just missed in that conversation, feel free. But you did mention a couple times already, so we are fitness, food, and fun, and the second part of it is food. And you've mentioned how food was integral in your development and also in the development of your students to get from point A to point B.
100%. If you knew what I ate as a kid, even as a teenager, it's quite appalling. But at that time, it just we it didn't know, right? I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know until it's pointed out to you, right? And so that component, and let me just say, my mom is a really good cook. It wasn't my mom. It was me on my own when I have the free will to eat. And my vice was like chocolate, and I loved sweets and I loved cake and things like that. So when I started going to college and really focusing on the food aspect, a couple things were starting to shift there. And it really started to shift once I started getting into yoga. And some things that have helped me is, I love fresh food, organic. I try to eat local, even trying to get into like the local CSA, community shared agriculture, and cooking for myself. So cooking is what I would say like an act of self-love, like an act of self-respect for this instrument that you get to call a body that does everything that you need to do during the day, breathing, have your heartbeat, right? So it's giving your body the sustenance, the nourishment it needs so that you can do what you need to do with your purpose in life. But with that said, I love really good food. I mean, I my roommates are incredible cooks and I am so grateful. So grateful I get to be like their taste tester. So yeah.
So one of the things you said in there, and I'd like you to expand upon a little bit. So you say you try, right? And obviously nobody's perfect, and there's
Mhm.
there's guilty pleasures. So tell me a little bit about
Mhm.
your favorite foods. What are your weaknesses here? What foods, like, so I break for cotton candy, or what is it? Tell me a
Oh,
little bit.
so I've got a few. And they're not all at once. Sometimes I get cravings at different times. There is this incredible chocolate cake that my roommates have shared the recipe with, and it is so darn good. I also love, there's a chocolate bar called Divine Chocolate, and it's like dark chocolate with caramel in it. So you
Yeah.
can probably see where the
Yeah.
theme is.
Ah,
Russian tea cake cookies, those are good too. And I also love a good like gelato or ice cream. That's like a coffee-ish flavor or chocolate flavor. So those are kind of like my vices, so to speak. So
in,
on the
in
opposite
general,
spectrum of
there's
like the
got to be
super healthy.
in
But
general, there's got to be some chocolate in there.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I break for
Yeah.
chocolate. All right, that's going to be the summary of that scene right there. So let's talk about, and we can dip back into a little bit with your,
Mhm.
but and it seems like that brings you a lot of enjoyment. But let's say what's fun in your life? What do you like to do? What's an enjoyable weekend or getaway, or what do you
Mhm.
just do routinely during the week that is fun for you?
So I live in an incredible part of the country. It is so beautiful. The trees, the mountains. I live close to beaches, excuse me. And so one of the things that I love to do on a weekly basis, if I can get out there, is just going to the beach, hanging out at the beach, walk along the beach. That's one of the things that I love, love, love to do. It's the connection to nature, and I can walk along the beach. For me, that's one of the fun things. Out here too in Seattle, it's very outdoorsy.
Mhm.
So hiking is incredible out here. I'm not an intense avid hiker, but I do like going on some of the shorter hikes that are out here, maybe a couple hours versus 5 or 6. And then there is like during the summertime, it's super, super busy outdoors. People are on paddle boards or kayaking. And so that's really fun. One of the things that I did during the summer that just like really shifted things, I was kind of in a funk. Obviously, last year was a big year, but one of the things that helped shift me out of this like funk that I was going through is I would take my mat, my yoga mat, and just go down to the beach and
Nice.
do yoga. And honestly, like the first time I thought of it, I got this internal nudge like, you should go do that. It'll help you. I was like, oh, no, no, I don't want to practice in front of anybody. I'm meaning out in the open. Like I was used to practicing in a studio or practicing in my room by myself. And I'm like, I don't want to practice in front of anybody. But once I got out there, it was such a incredible experience it was very freeing as well. So for me, once I did it, I was like, oh yeah, that's really fun. Let's go do it again. So like every morning around 8 or 9 o'clock, I'd get my butt out to the beach and just practice for about 45 minutes or an hour. And there was a woman out there who is kind of an interesting story. So where I would go, there's like these apartment buildings, and this one woman came up to me one day after a few weeks, and she's just like, I am so glad you've been coming here. And she's like, you have a beautiful practice. And she's like, I was a former dancer from San Francisco Ballet. And this woman is now in her mid 60s. And she's just like, I don't know what you're doing, but I try to follow along. And sometimes I do my own thing. But I just want to say thank you because of you, I'm practicing, I'm doing my own practice, but along with you. And I was like, oh my God, that was like the most incredible thing.
Very cool.
So what's interesting with that, it's like you never know when you get this internal nudge to like show up or to do something, how it's going to affect somebody else in a positive way. And I just like I carried that with me where it's like, you know what, I had so much fun on my own, but knowing that someone like an onlooker or a bystander was inspired by that, I was like, that's incredible. That's incredible.
And I think it's interesting because in your fun, there's also growth there, right? So you
Yeah.
initially would do some things for fun, which would be by yourself, but then being around other people or maybe
Mhm.
the public eye became a comfort zone and a fun thing for you to do. And it led to you connecting to the person you were just telling us about, which is your most rewarding thing in life. So I think that's a really interesting full circle on
Yeah.
just doing what you enjoy and what it brought back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in
Any
addition,
other things that you do for fun? Like what, you go to carnivals or movies, or is there anything like that? Are you a skydiver?
definitely not a skydiver,
Binge
but
watcher?
what'd you say?
Binge TV watcher.
Every once in a while, if there's a good Netflix, I will binge watch. And the latest was Bridgerton,
Ah,
for
yeah.
sure. With that, I loved watching that. Could not get enough of it. I do love movies. I still love dance. So getting out and doing a little dance. Yeah, honestly, trying new things, whether it's
And I also know we're in a weird state of the pandemic,
yeah,
COVID. I think if I was asked on the spot to say, hey, what's fun for you? I'd have a hard time thinking about it because you haven't done anything really in almost a year. So it's hard to even remember what's a fun thing to do.
yeah, it's really hard. Honestly, if we're talking about this past year, taking extra time to celebrate those moments with like the people closest to you. One of the things that I love doing is so much fun is going boating. Love boating. You might get me on a jet ski like once, but I love going boating.
This is like pontooning or slow cruising type of boating.
All of it.
All of it.
I just like boating. Yeah.
You're on
Don't
the
take me
boat.
out into like, what's that?
As long as you're on the boat but not aggressively working, you're happy.
Yeah. And we're not like in the middle of the ocean where these like 30-foot swells are coming up. I'm like, keep me close to shore, but boating around. Yeah. One of
Gotcha.
my favorite things to do. Some things that I've done that have been really fun that were also super scary. Going in a hot air balloon, very scary, but
Still haven't done
super
that, but would
fun.
like to.
Yeah, it's when you're up there, you're at like 1,000 feet. I remember being in a hot air balloon, and there was a couple other ones around, and you could hear the conversations from the other balloons. It was quite fascinating being up that high.
So the
Anyhow.
last thing I want to give you a chance to do for us as fitness, food, and fun is talk about how these things all weave together, or maybe how you see them differently. Like, what's your philosophy
Mhm,
on
mhm.
fitness, food, and fun? And you did touch upon some of these things, but I'd like to give you a chance to just
Yeah.
put it all together, or tell how your view is a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. So I approach fitness, food, and fun obviously through the lens of yoga, right? Yoga's not just one thing. It's not just like the physical practice. Yoga is meant to be a lifestyle. There are many different components, right? So it's holistic. And I see every part of my life as a expansion of yoga. So it's an experience. So my teacher shares with me and says, yoga is not just what you do on the mat. The real practice of yoga is off the mat. And so it's learning to cultivate this relationship. So when I think of fitness, it's learning to cultivate a relationship with yourself and your body, your emotions, your mind. When I think of food, it's cultivating a relationship not only with the food, but perhaps like the farmers who grow it, right? That's why I'm huge into like organic and local. I want to support our local farmers, and with the fun aspect, mhm, being able to not like know your purpose, but not be so serious in life. Bring And so it's really just bringing your inner expression out in all areas and knowing that it's a constant state of evolution, that nothing is ever perfect. Being okay if you try something and don't like it, that's 100% okay. But being also open to new experiences. And it just like if you were to get to know somebody, you would want to start building that relationship with them. It's the same thing with the different aspects of my life. And it wasn't until I actually stepped into yoga that I could actually see that through that lens. Whereas before, fitness, food, or fun were all these separate different categories. And they're, to me, they're not, they're all interwoven. And I can give you an example. So for this year, you know how like it's all about, when the start of the year, it's like, oh, you need to have a New Year's resolution. And I was like that for a long time. Like, oh, I need to have these like tangible goals and da 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 da. I need to read like so many books per year and da da da. I kind of like chucked that out of the window.
Mhm.
And I just simplified it down to be like, what, how do you want to feel in your life? How do you want to feel? What's this intention? And this is working for me. So it's the intention of feeling strong and connected in myself. So how can I build a life that's going to feel strong and connected to me, right? That's going to help me blossom more, expand more. I don't want to shrink. I've done that before in parts of my life. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to feel expansion. I want to feel alive. So I do that through the different avenues that weave together. And so it's making sure I get on the mat, whether it's a strong practice, meaning like physically exerting a lot of effort,
Mhm.
or it's knowing that I need to take a step back and I need to do something that's restorative to my body. So not pushing too hard. So that is one element. It's making sure I get the proper nourishment on the front end and the back end of my day and through the day too. And if I know I feel depleted, it's like, okay, how am I going to feel strong if I'm not eating the proper foods? And same thing with like my relationships. How can I strengthen these relationships that mean so much? What am I doing that's blocking? Or perhaps what is somebody doing to me that I'm not addressing? But really, really thinking from kind of like the inside out versus like, oh, I have to do this, 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 and this, and kind of make it like a chores list
Mhm.
versus like, this is what I want to experience, feeling strong and feeling grounded and being able to express more of who I am because this is, a personal journey, just like yours is your personal journey. And it's unique unto you, and you have a choice to make that however you want. Um, so yeah.
Thank you. And I just want to say that what I really appreciated about in your summary is it brought me back to taking class with you and that
Mm,
not taking yourself too seriously thing. And it's, I think, especially when I was taking your class, I was much newer to yoga at that time. And you go to some classes and people are very zen, but you were just very down to earth. And you haven't changed at all with this massive amount of growth that you've done in education and experience and everything else. You still laugh and just say, hey, it's just be yourself. And I think that that's a really important aspect of practicing yoga or just going through life on a daily basis. So, in closing, I just want to say thank you very much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it. I think you had a great message for everyone to listen to. I think there's so many takeaways there. Your discussion on growth is very beneficial, I think, for a lot of people to hear. So, again, thank you very much for being the third ever guest on Fitness, Food, and Fun. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.